Hello, my name is Rob Jensen. Welcome back to AGP to Redefined. Here I've got a couple students with me today, and we have a very interesting subject matter for which we want to talk about. Something that doesn't necessarily come up too often, but is certainly some that is very important for certain students as they pursue their college app and their college prep process. Here I have Heyu and I have Kyler. You guys want to maybe just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yeah. My name is Kyler Larsen. I'm a senior at A&M Consolidated High School. I love coding. I love math, and I'm a part of a lot of clubs, extracurriculars, and I also do research like this podcast. You can probably tell.
Hi, I'm Heyu. I'm a senior also. I'm at College Station High School. I'm a part of the orchestra, the theater department. I really love math, and that's what I'm hoping to pursue in the future. And so that's what we'll get into it, but that's what research helped me a lot with.
Yeah. And so that is, today we're going to delve into research and kind of what y'all's experience looked like, kind of break it down a little bit more for other people to understand what it is really sort of entailed in that whole thing. And just as well as help others, how they may possibly get involved in some ways with research and the benefits. So let's kind of begin. I mean, both of you had research experiences this past summer, very successful ones, as I might say. And, something within that, just kind of tell us a little bit about that experience and what you sort of took away from it.
Okay, I'll go first this time. I did research at Texas A&M. I did it through the math department. So I worked with a professor in the math department named Dr. Eric Rowell. And I worked mostly more closely with a PhD student. His name was Benjamin Warren, and we worked with, do you want me to go in depth about what we...
Yeah, just kind of a little bit about what sort of things you did,
Yeah, so there was this problem with an equation called the Yang-Baxter equation, and what we were trying to do was find solutions for it. Well, not solutions, because there's an infinite number of solutions, so what we were trying to do was find classifications of solutions, and mostly what I did was they had a computer program through Maple, and what I did was input various potential solutions, and then they would spit out a list of polynomials or matrices, and I would solve them, and I would bring back a list of solutions for them.
Very cool. Very good.
I had research this summer. I applied through a program, and I actually won where I got to work at the Harvard Medical School. So that was actually really cool. I was not expecting it at all. I got to work under a professor. His name was Yogesh Rathi, but I worked more closely with two, I guess, I'm not sure what they're called, but I think they're called lecturers or associate professors, I'm not sure. But one was named Kevin Cho, and one was named Arghya Paul. And we essentially worked on, I was focusing on computer science, and the lab I was working on is focused on neuroscience. So it was kind of weird because I wasn't sure why I was there. They're all biologists, they're doctors, and I didn't really know why I was there, but then I realized, they gave me my project, and it was MRI reconstruction. So essentially taking, an MRI scan, but trying to make it, more efficient by instead of taking, the entire MRI scan, we now have, half of the MRI scan or less than half the MRI scan. And we use artificial intelligence, deep learning models, basically anything that we can to predict the rest of it with, significant enough accuracy that we can potentially use it in actual settings. And I learned a lot through that. It was really fun. I definitely came a long way from the beginning to the end. When I first got there, I had no idea what I was doing. I felt so out of place, but I definitely, it felt really good at the end. So.
You're kind of just drinking from a fire hose a little bit.
Yeah. It was the first week there. I was so lost. I had no idea what I was doing. But they were very nice. So I got caught up pretty fast.
So it just kind of threw you into the deep end. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about just how did you come about research? I know yours. You had an experience this summer and you kind of doing that. But I know Kyler's yours kind of was sort of culminated into what you ended up doing this summer. Just tell us a little bit about your background and how you arrived to this point and what you were able to do this summer.
Yeah, so the first kind of research experience I had was back probably during the COVID years, where I attended this online research program at the University of Texas. It was called University of Texas high school research program or something, but yeah, very generic. But I worked with this like one professor. It was online because it was obviously COVID, and it was like ecology or something like that. It wasn't really related to what I was interested in, but I did want to get interested in research. So I just went for it. I worked under this professor, Laura Gonzalez, and we documented artificial brightness and NDVI, which was like plant biomass growth. But it was interesting just because I got to learn how to do research, and that kind of promoted me to doing my own study throughout the next year, where I used deep learning to solve, I guess, pneumonia diagnosis from COVID based off of lung X-rays. It was a project that I started at a online camp, and then just kind of used all through the year, just like developing it to see how well I could make it work. And that kind of formed my basis for when I was applying to these programs to like have to say like, this is like the research I've done, this is like what I think my strengths are, and that's how I could get top opportunities like that, because I already had pretty decent research experience.
Yeah, and then after that you applied to like the Research Summer Institute.
Yeah,
I
I applied to a few, but
yeah.
The one that I got into was called Rise. It's based out of Boston University, but it's really just they essentially place you in labs that they think are the best for you to succeed. I think it's a I don't know how prestigious it is, but I think it's like relatively prestigious. That's why I was able to get like where I got. But I think the best way that I can say why I got in was because I started research pretty early. And I think that was very beneficial. Starting as early as you can once you get into high school is really, really good. It won't just look good for colleges, but it'll also help you, learn a whole bunch of other things that I think we'll talk about later in this podcast.
Yeah,
and tell us a little bit about your journey there.
For me, it wasn't as intentional. I was just kind of bored over the summer, and I had like nothing to do. And so I knew like some of my friends were reaching out to professors to do research. And so this was before Robb, so I was just like blue collaring it. I was like emailing professors at A&M. I was like asking them if they'd like to take on like a high school intern who had no idea what he was doing. I sent them like resumes and stuff. And I sent probably, 10 to 15 emails, and maybe like 2 or 3 professors responded, but I just kind of like latched on to those professors, and I like asked them about their labs and stuff. And I ended up, my first research experience was also during COVID, 2020 I think, or 2021. Summer after my sophomore year. I ended up working at a lab in the computer engineering department, and it was a sketch recognition lab. So the main project that I kind of worked on was called mechanics, which is so like engineering students at universities, their first year they go through like this set of classes, and a lot of the homework in those classes involve like drawing force diagrams, drawing truss diagrams, like identifying different things, but it's all like them drawing stuff, so the professor has to manually grade everything. Like you can't do that online. And so what we did was we created sort of an online platform that could recognize these shapes and these lines, and was able to grade these using machine learning and stuff like that. And I think it's implemented at A&M right now, and it's implemented at Georgia Tech University, and so they're still like going through trials of that. But honestly, like going into it, I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, I'm bored out of my mind over the summers, and I guess like research would look good and it would be fun to do. And so I just emailed a ton of professors, and honestly, now I'm not even thinking about going into computer science or anything like that, but it was just a really good experience, like putting myself out there and being willing to advocate for myself in front of like this like list of like professors at A&M. And so that was a really good experience, and I had a lot of fun doing it too. And it was intimidating at first, but like Kyler said, it was like drinking from a fire hose at first, and they were giving me these like lines of codes, and I was like, guys, I don't even know JavaScript. Like, and so it was like a week of like me trying to learn like all the code and all the basics on my own before I could like really delve into it. But it was like, it was a good exercise in self-advocation. It was a good exercise in like self-learning. Yeah. And so it was really good.
Yeah, and that's a really important thing that I think the two of you didn't kind of brought up in different ways, but you know, having to kind of, okay, this is what they want from me. Obviously, there's not a course for me to learn this, no structured environment to learn this, right? I got to figure out this myself, right? I got to kind of go and there's no manual of any sorts of what you're supposed to do and do this step, but you're just sort of kind of following your way into it and trying to figure out what is it that I need to do and how do I do this and such. So yeah, I mean, tell us a little bit about that process as well. But what other things did you kind of discover through this process of research? Just what are the things that came out of it? Like, oh wow, I'm looking back on, wow, I did not think I was going to have that to take that away from that experience.
Yeah, I guess I can go first. Yeah, so like Rob said, self-learning and really learning how to, I guess, kind of be independent in these types of situations is very important. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people miss out in high school is they have this very structured curriculum for them. They just go to school, they do whatever assignments their teacher tells them, and they learn how to do that well, but then they never really learn how to do anything past that. And I think that's what research is really, really good for, is you can go to these places in professional settings and then work with actual professionals, managing time, managing stress, managing different projects and stuff, and that's one of the most important things I think about research. But one of the other things that I was really surprised when I took away from research is that it's a very collaborative field. I don't know, when I was going into research, initially I thought it was just going to be a bunch of 80-year-old white professors and just they're just going to be sitting there growling at me the whole time, and I was I don't know, I was really scared. But then I get there and everyone at the lab is very nice. They're always making sure I feel comfortable. I know what I'm if I need any help or if I need something, they'll go get it for me. And that's one of the things that I really was not expecting to see in a research environment. I heard all these horror stories from academia, don't go in there, everyone's just trying to steal each other's work and slit each other's throats. But it was but yeah, no, it was really, really nice. I would not be afraid of trying to dip your toes in the water at all. There's certainly ways you can do it wrong, but there's more ways you can do it right.
Yeah, definitely along the lines of what Kyler said. If you're thinking about doing it, don't be afraid. Don't let fear be the thing that's keeping you from pursuing a research experience, because like Kyler said, once you get accepted or not accepted, but once they invite you to come work with them, like I said, there was a ton of professors who just ghosted me, who didn't respond. But those people that do respond and who do invite you, most of the time it's because they genuinely are willing to work with a high schooler, and it's because they have that willingness to kind of mentor not only the younger generation of undergraduates, but people who are even in high school and who are looking for a research experience and looking to develop that for their future. So the math research that I did this past year, the first 3 weeks maybe was just the PhD student sitting me down. I'm sitting here, he has a whiteboard and he's just explaining what exactly the problem is. He's not even telling me how to solve the problem. He just at that point I needed basic vocabulary, what's a tensor product, what's a Kronecker product, what does it mean when you're saying this vector space is tensored on 3 times on itself. I didn't know what that meant going in, but he was so willing to just sit me down, and maybe it was 6 hours of him cumulatively it was 6 hours of him on a whiteboard sketching that all out before I understood it and I was able to apply that into the research. And honestly, high school research, at least my experience has been, is I feel like I've gotten a lot more from the research than I've given them. And I think that's what they're expecting, because if they wanted we want to do this research at the highest level, they would be getting PhD students, they would be getting postdocs. But the fact that they're inviting you as a high schooler to participate and to collaborate with them, in part is because they recognize the importance of bringing this experience to someone from a younger generation. And so they're willing to help. Well, the ones that invite you
Yeah.
are willing to help, and I guess I learned a lot about how collaborative the environment is, and
Yeah, most definitely. I think, Kyler, you kind of alluded to a little bit earlier some of the interdisciplinary aspects of your research, and and certainly, I think you've mentioned before even to me that you guys would have these meetings and where y'all would sit down and kind of share each other's research and given the opportunity to kind of make comments on what they're doing, and so it's kind of that outside perspective of and welcoming that, kind of embracing that sort of opinion. So within that, just you had these experiences. You obviously learned a great deal about your individual fields. Your MRI research, and kind of theoretical math, and even sort of it seems like it kind of also kind of confirmed a lot of your suspicions, right? I know you and I had several conversations about a year ago.
It was a long journey.
About a year ago, we were kind of all over the map in some ways, and we were trying to bring it down a little bit. So kind of just briefly let us in on that thought process that, that just, walk us through mentally, like maybe the conversations that you had to yourself, or maybe with others too, of how you arrived and how you feel very confident about what you're pursuing for college.
I guess, yeah, for me, I'm still not 100% sure, but on every single application I've been putting math as my major, because it's my experience doing research. I wrote an essay about this, and it was like tedious at times, I'll admit, because the jobs that you're given as a high schooler is like oftentimes like solving these polynomials, or like inputting stuff into like these computer screens, and like you're being blue lit for like hours at a time, and it feels almost like you're not doing anything like meaningful. But I remember like coming into weekly lab meetings. Like I would have these meetings every Friday at 1 p.m. with my PhD student, and we would just talk, and we would often get off topic. Like we'd spend like maybe the first 30 minutes to an hour talking about our solutions and like the potential impacts and whatever, but we would often get off topic, and I'd like ask him questions about like how he got into math, like what he liked about math. And I asked him questions about, because I at that time was questioning, should I go into math? What do I want to do? And he gave me a lot of great advice, not just like math major advice, but life advice, because he's like maybe a couple steps ahead in his journey than me, and he gave me a lot of advice that like affirmed what I was thinking and like the confusion that I was going through, and it made me more, weirdly, he was like, I was confused as well, but weirdly that made me more confident in choosing math as a path. And I remember like at some points when I was, mainly when he was like teaching me this stuff, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like this stuff is just unbelievable. Like I want to know more about that. I want to go into a field, or at least go into studies where I can learn more about vector spaces, and I can learn more about like these fundamental topics that like underline the workings of our universe. And that, like, my experience doing research with math really just affirmed what I was very confused about to begin with.
And like I said, I remember, we kind of spent months on that conversation, and so
we were like history, writing, like computer science,
engineering,
we were everywhere.
We were kind of everywhere for a while. So but that's good. I mean, that's great that you had that, and even sometimes when you maybe have an experience that can also kind of affirm that that's what you may not want. Easily.
My first research experience doing computer science, like I love the lab, I love the environment, but by the end of the summer I knew I don't think I want to go into computer science. And it was nothing against them. It was just something that I discovered during the work, during like the summer, and like the lines of code I had to go through and like all of that. So that was like, I had an experience both like telling me maybe I don't want to do this, and an experience telling me, like affirming that maybe I do want to pursue this further.
Yeah, and yeah, most definitely. And sometimes you just got to put yourself out there, right?
Yeah, I think I had a lot easier of a time, I guess, deciding what I was going to do. I kind of was choosing between math and computer science pretty much when I entered high school. I wasn't sure, what I was going to do. Obviously, you have 4 years, but every time I took an opportunity to do math or computer science, research or competitions or anything like that, I just realized, like this is where I want to be. I've done stuff, history, writing. It didn't feel great, but every time I would, whether it's a competition or whether it's like a club or anything, whenever I was doing that type of stuff, I knew that's where I wanted to be. And I think this was kind of affirmed by that first research I talked about, where I went into that like ecology lab, and I was essentially tasked with the computer parts of it, because I wasn't a biologist, but that was like one of the first times where I realized, this like is something that I actually could do like for the rest of my life, and it was just like, I was just like entering data and analyzing data. That's not like it's something crazy for like a computer engineer or anything, but in the end of the day, like it's the fact that was interesting to me was also interesting to me. Like why did I like doing that? I wasn't even sure. And I think that was really kind of affirmed at this past experience I had this summer, where I went to a lab where there was like one other person that knew what coding was. And it was like, it was really weird because I couldn't just turn to like the person next to me, even though they're, maybe they're smarter than me, they don't really know what I'm doing, right? It's just like I don't know what they're doing. So it was kind of where I had to really just figure out what I was doing on my own. And that was like one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. Like I said, I had machine learning experience heading in, but it was like nothing like what they were asking me to do. So for that first week, I really felt like I was lost, and like I really didn't know what I was doing, and maybe I was like, oh no, maybe this is not for me, because I'm clearly, when I'm in a professional setting, I'm clearly not ready for this. But over that time, I just reach out to the one other person there that could code, and also like just online stuff and learning about all these things that they're asking me to do. And I realized, maybe I don't know how to do it right now, but that's the point. Like I'm not supposed to know how to do this right now. No one knows how to do this right now. That's why it's research. That's why it's like you're trying to do novel stuff. And then once I realized that, I was like, okay, well this is actually interesting now. Like this is fun now. Now that I realized I wasn't expected to have this done in like 3 days. It was supposed to take me, the rest of the summer to complete. I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm supposed to be like experimenting with this stuff. And then that I would show up to the lab, an hour before everyone and leave an hour later, because I was just so engrossed with this stuff that they were doing, that other people in the lab would just be like, oh yeah, it's like so boring computer stuff, whatever, blah blah blah, and go do brain surgery. It's like, yeah, I mean, this was so interesting to me, like messing around with code and writing my own and trying to make things better. I mean, they were helping me make this thing that they were going to use in their lab for a long time, and I was like so worried at the beginning that I was going to screw something up completely, because I was like, why would they trust a high school student? But over that time where I was learning all that stuff, I realized this is exactly what I want to do, and I really reaffirmed like that I want to go into computer science.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And like both of y'all had very rewarding experiences in many different ways, and I think a lot of the attributes and qualities that you each were able to contribute into them. And you kind of mentioned, I mean, research is learning how to appropriately fail at something, right? Because if not, then you're not touching on anything novel, right? You're not creating anything new or anything. And being comfortable with that, understanding that, you're going to have to experiment many times over, but it's the curiosity, it's the determination, the grit that's associated with that experience of trying to to discover new patterns, new pathways of things, of how to do something. So, well, let's kind of shift gears. We're in December, senior year, both seniors. Yeah, they actually each have some very heavy decisions coming down pretty soon for each one of them. So, you know, hopefully good news will come
don't talk
forward to
about
them soon. But this whole semester, actually starting back in like June, right? We've been working towards college applications and essays, and I think, how many schools have you guys applied to once you're said and done?
I'm at 10.
10?
I think I'm like, I don't know how many, 12,
13,
I'm not sure.
something
I
like
haven't
that.
submitted many though.
Me
Yeah,
too.
it's like- yeah.
I
Are
have
they
the-
just sitting there?
Yeah, I have all the
Yeah.
applications done. I just haven't clicked submit.
Yeah,
I'm just
same.
worried because like
I'm
if
like-
I get into my like first choice, I don't need to submit it.
Oh,
It's like-
I'm just like, what if I think of an idea in the middle of the night?
Yeah,
and
also
like,
that too. Like what if I achieve a new achievement between now and like
what
2
if I
weeks?
finally learn how to do a backflip? Like,
What if I cure cancer?
You know,
In
yeah,
2
you-
weeks?
It's
you
right
don't-
there.
You,
the cure for cancer.
yeah, you gotta have that on your application. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, as you kind of been at this, it's been almost 6 months in the works, right? Applying to all these schools, you know, working on the applications, writing all these essays. Like, how has research kind of benefited you in this process? And both of you, I mean, you're both looking at some heavy hitting schools, so.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so there's a few things that it's really been helpful for, and the first one being that research is something that colleges really like. So if you're looking at good schools, or even if you're not even if you're just looking at like, you know, your in-state schools, research is going to help so much towards, you know, not just getting accepted, but getting, you know, honors programs, getting good financial aid, getting into like good labs and things like that. Like research is something that will set you apart from the, you know, the general populace. You know, everyone can do, or maybe not everyone, but a lot of people can do good in school. A lot of people can, you know, join clubs and stuff, but not many people want to like focus on research, want to actually, you know, do the research and learn from it. So that's like one of the main things that I think, you know, research you can actually benefit from in terms of like on paper. Another thing that is like what Heyu mentioned earlier is you learn how to kind of be a self-advocate. You learn to you know, put yourself in front of people that are like a million times more qualified than you and say, okay, here's why I think I deserve to be working with you or working, you know, under you. Here's why I think I deserve a spot at your, you know, top institution. And that helps you, that confidence that you can gain from, you know, getting 1 or 2 research experiences can carry over into like your applications, into your real life, where you can realize, okay, you know, I have skills. I have skills that, you know, are valuable to people. I have skills that, you know, I can use to, you know, change the world. And I just need to, you know, I need to have an opportunity to prove it. And that's where it can come into, you know, getting into good colleges, getting into good jobs, and things like that. And that's really what research has been good for me for. It's really helped me with, you know, self-knowledge, of course, self-advocacy, a lot of things like that. But yeah, it's really been one of the most enriching experiences. One of the things I'm very glad I pursued throughout high school.
Yeah, I think research is really important, even if you aren't thinking about going into research in the future. Like it's a rewarding experience regardless, because it's almost like a flip on its head from what we do in school. So it's like,
yeah.
how I imagine it, it's like, might be a horrible analogy, but it's like this, like these dots of people are like humans, and then there's like this cliff that we keep on extending, like there's this bridge towards like something, like some darkness, some void of like no knowledge, and we keep on like extending light towards that. And often in school we're like in the back of this pack of people, and we're just receiving like this light that they've already lit for us, like we're just receiving this knowledge that they've already given to us. But like research is almost an opportunity to like step into the front of that pack and to help like light, like you're touching stuff that they might not like teach in schools for like maybe like 10 years or 15 years until they've got it all figured out.
Yeah,
and you're like you're
most
helping
definitely.
figure that stuff out. And it's, even if you're like, oh, I realized I didn't like computer science, it's almost it's a new experience, and it's a new way of thinking that really helps just like overall, like in life. Like you can take that way of thinking into your sport. You can take that way of thinking into like any of your other activities, or even like how you interact with other people. It's like what we know is not set.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's growing, and you can be a part of that growth. And in terms of college, very practically, there's an MIT research supplement. Like there's an essay for it, right?
Yeah,
they ask you.
For all the Ivies too, you can have optional research supplements.
Mm-hmm. They always
submit abstracts or papers.
Yeah, it's always good to have that stuff.
They always let you submit research stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh geez, I was gonna say something else, but I forget. Like, it's a good way to show your interest in whatever you're pursuing. Like if I'm majoring in math, and I'm saying, and maybe other people are saying, I'm really interested in math, but I'm saying I'm interested in math and I'm proving it I actually explored this, then that shows a lot more than someone. And disclaimer, we haven't been accepted to any of these colleges yet, so, it could all go downhill very soon. But this is what we think right now, right? And it's like, it's a super, super good way to spend your summer. Like, I personally, I know Kyler has been like really in depth with his research. Like he's extended it into like independent research projects. Personally, I've mostly do research over the summer, and then during the semester, I'll help like maybe a couple weekends a month. Like I'll go and meet with them, but nothing as serious as I do in the summer, because during the school year I have a ton of other activities, and they understand that. But even, it's just been such a rewarding way to spend the hours that I haven't like been bombarded with all these activities, with school, with homework, with assignments. And I know, even, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think some colleges, Stanford maybe has questions like, how did you spend your summer? What was the most rewarding experience you had? How have you, they really like seeing how you've taken initiative to explore things, especially on the downtime when they know you're not bombarded with this stuff. How have you chosen to spend that free time? And research is a really good way to spend that time, instead of, I don't know, I probably would have been sleeping and eating junk food and watching reruns, personally.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Well, you guys did such a phenomenal job, and it's been such a pleasure working with the both of you. We really saw the value of research, and each year we've been kind of encouraging more and more students to pursue that. And I think this past summer we had about 6 students, kind of went off and pursued some individual efforts through various forums. It's been so much that we're actually starting and launching a new program. This coming spring. It's called REAL, Research Enriching Academic Learning, in which we'll have someone on staff who is well equipped and has been through the research process and pursuing master's and PhD, and has mentored undergraduate and graduate students at university level. So it's something that we so strongly believe in, that we really are hoping to encourage more students to pursue this pathway for that. So
I think that's really great, because I think oftentimes research is like almost reserved for like the most high achieving students, because only those are the ones who seek out. But if there's like this initiative to like bring research almost to the masses, like to everybody, like I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's really hard. It's kind of difficult to get started with research, right? Like how you said, emailing 20 professors, you can maybe one response back. But if you get like this stepping stone, you can work your way up.
Precisely, that's what we're trying to do. Is like a lot of the skills that you guys were able to sort of accumulate through the various experiences that you had. We hope to kind of offer that to our students here in house, and start equipping them and building their resume, so that when they do email professors, they've kind of already got some preliminary skills, and maybe they even possibly have a little bit of publication or paper they could show the professor as well. So wow, it's been a tremendous experience. Working with the both of you, and certainly seeing how y'all's research and other experiences unfold in the way in which it has, and it's been such a pleasure. But thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of AGPD Redefined, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Bye.